We are talking to CaptnRetro tonight. We have Kevin here on the phone. What he does on his channel, everything from, picking up arcades. He even modifies them. He fixes them up, gets them back to looking new. He does video game reviews too on his channel. I even saw some toy figure reviews related to Ghostbusters. He hits up conventions. So all that kind of good stuff that you see a lot on people we interview on this show. So, Kevin, tell me about how long ago did you start this channel?
I've had a YouTube channel for like 13 years. Ever since YouTube started, I had like a little, my own Kevin Coughlin channel or whatever, but I didn't really upload much. Occasionally I'd throw up some music or something my band was doing, but it wasn't like I did anything with it. And I played music, man. I'm a musician by trade. Right now I make film scores. I do movie scores and composing music for that. So, and TV shows and commercials and stuff here in Atlanta. And done 2 horror films that came out in the last 2 years. Actually came out in theaters. Along Came the Devil 1 and 2. Check those out. My partner Chad and I made all the music and stuff for them and helped shoot those movies. They're great. I love doing that. That's really what I do on this planet. But the other thing I do was I played in a rock band for 10 years, and then two of the guys in the band had kids. That kind of killed the rock band's ability to go out and rock. So we became more of a studio type of thing, and that turned me on to making something else with my time. You know what I mean? Like I had a band that I was going and doing 3 or 4 nights a week and doing something with the band and going playing live or whatever and recording stuff, and then it kind of stopped. About 5.5 years ago, the band kind of took a break. And then I was like, what am I going to do with my time? And the other thing I did with my world was video games. That was my other passion, was collecting home console stuff and playing retro stuff and, all the Super Nintendo I could find, all the regular Nintendo and Genesis and Sega CD, all the nonsense that I could get my hands on. So I was hoarding a giant collection of stuff, and I thought I was the only person on the planet who did that kind of thing. Little did I know that YouTube had a whole section of morons just like me who are obsessed with finding old stuff to put their hands on. So
right.
A buddy of mine sent me a link to a Game Chasers video maybe 5 years ago or so. And I was like, what on earth? I do American Pickers, but for video games. It's exactly what I do, but I don't make a video of it. Like I go to yard sales and flea markets and thrift stores and people's houses and ask everybody I talk to about, you got any old games? And they were doing it and filming it. So I was like, I bet I could do something like that. So I kind of started doing that, kind of making a show where you followed me around flea markets and stuff. And that got I was learning how to, I edited. I've always made movies and stuff. I edited in high school and in college and made movies and films and stuff. But I wasn't ever, I didn't really have a plan for what the show was going to be or what my channel was going to be. I just constantly doing stuff. So in the last 2 years, it's really focused heavily on pinball and arcade restoration, repair, buying, flipping, and selling, pinball machines. And it's a very niche market, like super niche. No one gives a shite about pinball on YouTube. There are some bigger channels than mine that are primarily devoted to live streaming of pinball, which I do that as well. You set up 3 or 4 cameras and you get everything ready to go and you film yourself playing a real pinball machine. It's fun. I love doing that. I do that generally weekly on the reg here on YouTube or Twitch, on my Twitch channel. But it's, again, if I ever had, the time or the ability to focus on one general thing, I think I could make my channel a lot more potent, as in view count and, sub count and all that kind of stuff and all the ratios that matter to the algorithm. But as it is, I do what I want when I want, and I make what I want because I like making stuff, and it's fun to share it with the world. If you're along with the CaptnRetro show, then if you've watched my channel for longer than 3 months, you've seen a plethora of crazy different things that come out on it. You know what I mean? It's never the same thing twice, except for the pinball streaming.
Now, one of the things
that's what I do. And
sorry,
I'm sorry.
Go
ahead. No, go ahead. I was done.
One of the things we like to do is kind of ask the questions that somebody is not going to get answers to just by watching a channel. I like to kind of dig in there and get information that might not have been given from somebody's videos and somebody's channel content. So the first question I have for somebody like yourself that has all these amazing finds, these arcade finds, I want to know if somebody else out there was looking to start an arcade collection, whether it's in their home or build up one to start a barcade, what are some tips and secrets that you'd give as far as, because I look on Craigslist, I look on Facebook Marketplace, I look on eBay Local Pickup. I don't see that many. Do you have a network of people you know? Do you have secrets you could tell? What tips would you give to people out there?
Well, if I gave all my secrets away, then I'd take them all. So I can't.
Then you wouldn't have any tabs, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't have any secrets.
Just some.
So no, honestly, it's diligence. It is. Are you looking at Craigslist every day, every 30 minutes? Do you flip through Facebook Marketplace every 30 minutes? Are you checking every hour on the hour? Because that's what I do. You know what I mean? I have time in my world where I can devote 40 hours in a week to hunting for stuff. Does that make sense? And
that's what it takes, right? Is that what it takes to get them?
I mean, it takes diligence, and it takes being constantly on the look. I am constantly hunting. Even when I'm selling something, I'm trying to buy something. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm generally selling something so I can go get something else. So I'm a catch and release gamer, where it's like I have maybe 100 carts in my personal console collection in my hand. That's about it. The rest of it I like to play and test out and see what the hype is and go through a game, and then so you know what I mean. And so I can get something else and play something else. My collection pays for itself, and it also pays some bills on the side. I do pretty well finding and fixing these things. The other biggest thing is, you got to learn what you're doing with it. And I started from nothing. I knew nothing about anything until I started messing with it. So I bought a broken machine, and I went on YouTube and Google, and I started figuring out what it was and what this part number was and what does it mean, what does a capacitor do, and what is a transistor for. And next thing I know, I'm got a soldering gun, and I'm trying to take old components apart and pulling stuff that's broken off of things that I already know is broken, and pulling off parts of it and sticking them back on and testing. And then I started working on real things. I fixed the first game I fixed, arcade-wise, was what was that? It was a Pac-Man cabinet, but it had Galaga in it. It had a Galaga board in it. So I got that up and running after about 3 months of tinkering with it and messing around every other day for 30 minutes. And next thing I know, I had it running, and then I bought another one, and that snowballed into pinball machines and wanting to fix pinball machines. I've always had a deep fascination with pinball. It's one of my favorite games. When I go to an arcade, you can generally find me at the pinball section. I mean, I can play arcade machines at home. I can play video games at home. You can't play pinball at home unless you have one. And even then, you only got the one. You know what I mean? So if there's an arcade and there's more than one pinball machine, I am in heaven. And I taught myself how to fix them. You know what I mean? Like I looked it up and I started reading on it and taught myself how to do all that kind of stuff and learned some electronic skills throughout it that have not only served me of fixing my own stuff, but I started a little side business of fixing stuff for other people. So some of my channel is going to for them. People will hit me up. I made a little Craigslist ad. If you need repairs done, I'll come help it. And it's not only been fun to do that, but I get to play their games and I get to fix games and be around more games. You know what I mean? So it's all a means to an end, and the end is play more games. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
I'm a gamer first and foremost, and I mean technically for a job I'm a musician, I guess, but I'm a gamer at heart. And oh God, if I could write music for a freaking video game, that's the goal. I need to get with Tommy Tallarico and see what's up. Try and throw some music his way.
What's funny too is I just saw tomorrow night's guest in your Retropalooza video here, Zap Crystal. She's going to be on the show tomorrow night.
Yeah, Crystal's cool. I've known her for a couple of years now, just doing the YouTube stuff. But I go to conventions and I set up a booth and I sell, home console stuff. And this one I've got there's a regular Pac-Man and I think a Donkey Kong or maybe a Mario. I wasn't even watching. But I take pinball machines and I set them up and I run tournaments. conventions. That's Retropalooza there in Texas.
Right.
One of them. It's either Dallas or Houston. And I film videos. I've been going there for about 4 years now, something like that. What's up, Smash JT? I see him over there at the comments. Good. I'm gonna talk trash about Smash. I threatened him on Twitter earlier when I knew I was coming on here.
And when you go to a convention like Retropalooza, what is your game plan? Do you have a list beforehand of things you want to look for, or you just know in the back of your mind what you want, and you're just ready to go when you walk in?
I fly by the seat of my pants, man. Generally, I'm at these things, and I have a booth, and I'm stuck at my booth for 12 hours in a day. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not there to go walk around the convention. I'm by myself. Occasionally, I'll take a friend with me that'll ride down and hang out with me at the convention. That's happened a couple times, but generally, it's me by my lonesome. And you got to keep an eye on your booth. You know what I mean? Like, you're there to be a vendor, not really be a con attendee. But you do get some time. You definitely, being a vendor has its perks. That's the holy metal storm that I had. It had somebody knocked a hole out of the front of it, but the game played just fine. I lost my train of thought looking at that metal storm. Now I want it back now that I see it's going to giant hole in it. I think my game
plan is asking about
make money. My game plan is to make money. But we, as a vendor, you get extra perks, and you can walk the floor early. You can walk the floor late. You know what I mean? Like, you're there an hour before everybody else gets to go in there, and you're there an hour after everybody, generally cleaning up and messing around, or getting ready to go to the after party and hang out with people. But I'm good friends with the Game Chasers now. I actually met them at a convention like 4 years ago, and I had seen their channel a little bit, but I really wasn't that huge of a viewer of it. I was like, I already do all that. Let me make my own channel. So I just jumped kind of right in, making my own stuff. And anyway, I met Jay and Billy at a con in Florida, and they were like, "Come on to Retropalooza, you sell a lot of stuff." I'm like, "Okay." So I did, and next thing I know, I'm going to that like 3 years straight until this year, when obviously the coronavirus stopped all conventions from happening all summer long here. It's been terrible. I've lost a lot of money this summer by not being able to go out and do things, but that's all right because I've been saving a lot of money by sitting on my butt at home.
I respect, too, what you said earlier. You said you're able to fund the things you buy from the reselling. And that's impressive because there's not tons of people that are able to do that. I know, some people do it as a business when they're flipping stuff on eBay. But to buy the stuff that you're buying, and you're buying a little of everything, whether it's arcades, consoles, carts. So I really respect that because that takes a lot of dedication to have the funds left over at the end of the day, like you said, to have that money to spend.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole goal, right? Like, you don't want to go broke doing things you love. And first and foremost, I love gaming, and I always want to have some games around. So you can't do that on the cheap. And if you don't work a regular 9-to-5 job, it's a lot easier to go do that kind of stuff if it's making you money, so you can pay your bills and not have to go to a regular 9-to-5 job. Does that make sense? I made good money doing the music thing, but that's a catch can type of job, where I might work for 6 months straight, and then I'm not working for 8 months on anything. You know what I mean? We're waiting for production to work, we're doing post, we're doing something where I'm not really getting paid for like 8 months of my life, and I better find a way to bring some income in. So the only way I really know to do is to buy and sell things I loved. I did work at a pawn shop about 7 years ago. I worked at a pawn shop for 2.5 years, right before I started doing the YouTube stuff and before the band broke up, actually. I was working as a manager at a pawn shop, so I kind of knew my way around negotiation and buying and selling things, you know what I mean? But I did it for them. I didn't do it for me. And when I left that job, I decided to kind of maybe I should try and do that for myself. So the only thing I really knew hardcore was video games. And I already had a massive pile of stuff that I wasn't going to play, that I knew was, worth money and valuable. So I sold a big chunk of my collection and started up, buying more and going crazy and buying other people's collections and setting up booths at conventions and selling things. So it did become a side job as well as my main passion. My main goal and hobby is to sit around and have fun. So it's my favorite thing to do, to have fun, is play video games.
Right. And an interesting thing about an interesting thing about what you said, buying people's collections. The key word is collections. And what I mean by that is I've seen other, whether it's toy collectors, game collectors, they will buy straight up somebody's entire $4,000 to $5,000 collection and try to get it at a price that you can make maybe, you get it at, if retail's a certain price, you got to undercut that if you want to make some money on that. Is that one of the keys to how you're making a lot of profit on this? You buy a huge collection?
Well, I mean, it's not necessarily the size of the collection, it's the item. You know what I mean? It's what's in the collection. So it depends on what I get. I have been known to shell out $10,000 for a guy's pile of games before, but I've also been known to shell out $5 for about $10,000 worth of stuff. That's happened. So you know what I mean? Like I make a joke on Twitter, and MC Murray is quite fond of it as well as I am. That no one gets it, and I think they think I'm actually bragging, but really it's a joke. I call myself the king of pickups in a bunch of different tweets. I'm always like king of pickups, and like no one's the king of anything. Number one. Number two, like I do get some really good deals, but that it's all because I hustle. And if you were hustling as fast and as hard as I would, you'd get those deals too. So there are deals every day out there that I see that I don't get too. That I see things go by that I'm like, damn, I should have got that, or damn, I should have got that, or man, if I'd have been 5 minutes faster to that ad, I might have got the chance to make a bid on it, but it's already gone. You just got to be diligent about everything you like in this world. If you want to be good at YouTube, get diligent. Do it every day. Do something towards that goal every day. Now, my goal isn't to become YouTube famous or make a living with YouTube. It'd be nice to get paid. My channel was initially monetized, back before the initial adpocalypse break, and I was on Screenwave Media, and I was in part of that group, and then you have to have 4,000 watch time hours, and my channel just doesn't get it. Like, I had enough subscribers, but I didn't have the watch time hours, so I lost any kind of monetization I was getting through there. But it didn't stop me or deter me from doing it, because it's what I like to do. I like to make stuff. So whether it's music or videos about that, some of my videos are goofy fake commercials. I make con footage. I make how-to tutorials for how to fix things. I do documentaries about lost pinball machines that never got made. Right now I'm doing a series on my top 7 sports-themed pinball machines of all time. And those are all like mini documentaries. They're generally about 10 minutes long, with the first half being about the subject and the second half being about the actual pinball machine. And, I really enjoy making stuff, so I don't care if I ever make any money doing it. It's just, I'm just going to keep making shit. I made music for free for years. My band didn't make any money for years. You know what I mean? I barely made enough to feed myself and keep the lights on, playing 3 or 4 shows a week with my rock band. Nobody gives a can I cuss hardcore? Nobody gives a fuck about rock music anymore. It's dead. My favorite genre of music is a cesspool, and YouTube is actually a cesspool in a lot of ways as well. But it's really fun to kick back in the back end of the cesspool and like watch people flail. Does that make sense?
Yep.
I like watching channels of people who are no good at YouTube, and I kind of occasionally like watching people who are really good at YouTube. But generally, I like watching people who are real. So if you're real and you like me that way, then I'm probably going to like your channel a lot more than somebody who's overproduced and overhyped and everything out of their mouth is glowing gumdrops about what they're talking about. I'd rather see something real. That's just me.
Absolutely. We're the same way. We want just passion. We want honesty. And that's why we reach out to people like yourself. And, we're not just looking for the biggest channels. We're looking to help smaller channels too. We want to shine a spotlight where there's talent. That's the key. Where there's talent and there's passion and there's honesty. So I'm right with you there. Now, when you're talking about fixing up both arcade cabinets and pinball machines, I'm guessing, and I don't know much about either one, fixing them up, but I'm guessing pinball is a whole nother can of worms because of all the moving parts. Is that true, or are they both pretty equally difficult to fix up?
I mean, there are way more moving parts, obviously, in a pinball machine, but the good thing about that is that the actual mechanics of a pinball machine haven't changed since the 1930s. A flipper is a flipper, a kicker is a kicker. The pop bumpers are the exact same mechanisms, so that once you learn what you're doing on that end of the playfield, it's easy. It's basic, simple mechanics and making sure stuff is clean and doing what it's supposed to do. You know what I mean? If it's supposed to bend and turn this one way and it's not doing it right, figure out a way of doing it. The hard part is the electronics, and CRT. You know, messing with an actual monitor is not fun. Tracking down problems is not easy. I am by no means a professional at it. I have places where there are places that you can send boards off to. There are places you can send your CRT monitor, you know, the main board that runs those. You can send that off to a guy and have them repaired. You do pay, you know, kind of through the nose for some of that stuff. A brand new working pinball board is $400 generally, for most machines, in the $250 to $400 range. If I can save $250 by taking, you know, 3 or 4 hours and trying to figure out what exactly isn't working on it, then that's the way to go. You know what I mean? Trying to save as much money as you can repairing them. It's just like old cars. You don't want to go, you know, upside down fixing something that you're not going to get the money back out of. So when you get into that bed, you better know what bed you're getting into. Does that make sense?
It does. What I'm curious about,
I bought a broken pinball machine, a Judge Dredd machine that I got for $400. That was the first pinball I bought. That's on my channel. You can watch my journey through pinball through the last 3 years of my YouTube channel. Before that, I knew about arcade machines and I had fixed a couple, and then I went nuts. You know what I mean? Like something happened at when I turned like 38, and I went nuts. And I was like, let's start doing arcade stuff, because it would never. Before that, it was all music. My life was all music. And nothing on my YouTube channel is really about my music. I've put up, I think, the 2 trailers to the movies I've made, but I don't really share my professional life on YouTube. I share my goofy ass, me and my buddies messing around in the basement fixing stuff life. You know what I mean? So
and how much how much do you enjoy like the tinkering with the mechanical side, the fixing, you know, versus just the final product? Are you like more about, you know, just the joy of having that finished working arcade, or because some people enjoy the tinkering and the fixing? Do you enjoy that part, or which one do you enjoy more?
I think all of it, man. Again, I'm a gamer at heart, so I want to play a game, and the best way to play a game is in its native form. You know, its original state, whatever the game is. Was it built as an arcade machine originally? Was it Galaga in the arcade? Was it Galaga on a 8-bit Nintendo? A Galaga on 8-bit Nintendo is kind of fun, but that shit's meant to be played in an arcade machine. You know what I mean? It was built for the arcade. So I like playing original stuff on original hardware. That's the key. Now, I will emulate. I've got emulators. I've got some of those Pandora's box machines. I have built people multi-cades. I don't like it. It's not like, if that was the way to go, then I would be upset with that. Like, that was like everybody did that. But my favorite thing is fixing something that should be working or could be working if you took the time to mess with it. So I've really fallen in love with the tinkering aspect and figuring out what the problem is and ordering the parts and getting them in the mail. Man, when the mail comes, it's like Christmas. You know, every other day around here, it's like Christmas, because new parts show up and I'm like, oh, and I can fix something again. You know what I mean? Like that. It makes me really proud to take something that's been in a garage and broken for 15 years in somebody's house, and within a couple hours, generally, or a couple hours the next day of getting it home, I've got it at least doing something. You know, if it's not fully up and running, I've figured out why it's not fully up and running, and I can order the part to make it run. I really like doing that. I was a guitar tech for a couple of years for a couple different bands and things, and I played guitar in my band, and I really like messing with guitars and fixing those, and I can do a lot with a guitar. I never really could mess with amps. So I lost a pretty big job as a guitar tech because an amp broke and I wasn't able to fix it, and we had to send it off.
Right.
And they replaced me with a guy who could fix amplifiers and foot pedals and all that kind of stuff. And it kind of put a little burn in my heart. I was like, if I was smarter, I could have kept that job. And you know what I mean? If I'd have paid attention in school or gone to shop class or something, maybe I would have been messing with this stuff earlier. So it really did light a little fire, and I had an arcade at home that needed work, so I went and taught myself how to fix it, and here we are. You know what I mean?
Well, you're talking to the right guy too, because I've been playing guitar since 13. You know, I have a pretty decent collection of guitars. I got a few Strats. I'm mostly a Fender guy, I'd say. I got a few Stratocasters. I got a Tele. I got a Gibson SG, a Fender Jaguar. Because I kind of grew up on that whole grunge rock, alternative rock. I know you're saying rock is dead, and it kills me. I want to cry about how
It's
dead.
true, though. You prove me wrong, and I'll be okay with it.
But I love.
I wish it wasn't.
I know. So do I. I don't know. It's going to come, Kevin. It's going to come back. It's going to come back.
The
Kevin.
last real rock
comes
Bullet for My Valentine and Bullet for My Valentine are no good anymore either. You know what I mean? Like, what happened to them? I don't know. Maybe I'm just cynical and old in my 42 years of age. Actually, I'll be 42. In 5 days, I turn 42. Maybe I'm just getting old. You know what I mean? Maybe I'm just getting old, and I think that rock is dead because nothing impresses me anymore. The last band that impressed me was System of a Down, and what happened to them? They fell apart.
Right. Speaking of amps, though, and I know you said you're not that skilled with fixing them, but are you a Mesa guy? Are you a Marshall guy? Are you like an Orange amplifier guy? Like, what's your go-to amp?
My bass rig in the band was a Mesa, a 4-spot, 412 cab, and a big Mesa head. I'm not exactly sure what the model number is on it. It's been that long. I also had a custom thing, custom with a K, a custom bass head. I played bass in a rock band. I played acoustic guitar and was the lead singer of my rock band. And he likes all this stuff. He likes Les Paul. He likes Strats, Ellie's. He's just like he's got one of everything basically. I've got a Taylor acoustic and a Les Paul custom, 92 Les Paul custom. And I play a Marshall stack for my regular, rock guitar, but I generally don't play a rock guitar anymore. I've done everything, man. I've tried everything. And I really got into the Amtech stuff. Big on Amtech gear. I was big on the custom with a K stuff for a minute, and then I kind of went, let me get the Mesa, and that changed your whole world. When you get a Mesa, fuck, it's over with.
Oh, yeah.
Once you get the right Mesa Boogie, you're like, oh, yeah, Mesa Boogie. That's the guy.
I have a dual rectifier and a tremble verb. Are you familiar with those?
Yes. That's dual rec is what Chad plays on, the lead guitar player.
And they just got that tone. They just got that killer tone.
I've got an old. My grandfather left me a '63, or I think it's a '63. It might be a '62 Fender Princeton, a little bitty, beautiful little guitar amp. From back in the day when they were made right, and the two.
Oh yeah.
It just sings, man. It's a beautiful. We use that in the studio a lot for super clean stuff. We use the pedal steel through it, and it's just gorgeous. Just a gorgeous amp. I'm not the best player. I'm a pretty good musician. I'm really good at. I write the lyrics. I come up with melodies, but I'm not the greatest. I can't really solo. I can play a couple scales, and I never really got crazy into the theory of music. I play from my heart, and my band was called Echoes In. There's all kinds of stuff online of us rocking and making noise, kicking some teeth out. But it was all, it wasn't, there was not a lot of training going on in our band. We all kind of were self-taught and had a lot of fun just making shit up on the fly and not caring if we were doing it right. So that's what rock and roll is, though, right? You just go out there and do it.
Hell yeah. Let's talk about a few arcades that you've gotten that were your holy grails, and a few that you're still looking for that are your holy grails.
Well, the only holy grail arcade machine I've ever wanted, I actually owned two of, and now I have the nicer of the two, and the Mortal Kombat 2. I love that Mortal Kombat cabinet. It's not. Arcades really aren't my jam, at least having like a holy grail situation, but that's what I'm going to keep. I've got an original Pac-Man and an original Miss Pac-Man. Those two I'm going to keep. The rest of them are kind of up for sale at any given time. But pinball machines, if I come across a Medieval Madness, you will have to pry it from my cold, dead hands. And possibly, there's another game called a Cactus Canyon that they only made a couple hundred of, and I'm never going to find one. They're $12,000 and $13,000 machines, and everybody who has one knows it. So it's not. I'm never going to get one at the price I want. Then I'm never going to pay that much for one. So I'll never have one. But if I found one of those two, I'd probably never get rid of it. But other than that, everything else is fair game, baby. Catch and release. I'll play it for 3 or 4 or 6 months, whatever, get rid of it, hold on to it for a year and a half, 2 years, get rid of it. But my seat of my pants is telling me to do because I fly for the seat.
Right. And talking about pinball, why has pinball died out? And let me phrase why I say that. Because you can emulate all the arcade stuff, right? You cannot emulate, even though there's those pinball arcade console ports, you can't emulate working parts, the bumpers, the lights, the sounds. You can't emulate that experience. Why, in your opinion, forget about history now, why, in your opinion, has pinball died out?
Well, I wouldn't say it's died out. I honestly, it's in its like third resurgence right now. It's been actually kind of blowing up for the last like 5 years again, just like everything else retro. Once retro kind of started popping 5 or 6 years ago, pinball was right along with it. It's still alive, as you can tell. This is whatever we're looking at here, a video or something. Yeah, I must be at Portal Pinball Arcade up in Kennesaw. That guy just opened up a place 2 years ago that is the most amazing joint. There's like 30, 40 machines in there. It's $10, all you can play, all on free play. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can go in there and play all day long for $10. It is incredible. Pinball is the biggest manufacturer left is Stern. There used to be Williams and Bally and Gottlieb and Premier and Sega and Data East and all these other companies were making pinball machines. It's out throughout the 90s, and that kind of ended in 99. By 99, every major company with the exception of Stern was out of business, and Stern was what Data East and Sega became. They merged together, and another guy bought them. The original owner, actually Stern, came back and took it back over and called it Stern again. Stern has been around since the 70s, roughly, and maybe late 60s, something like that, as in one form or another as a company. But they are the only big dog left right now that actually produces, 4, 5, 6, 7,000 machines in a given year. They just put out the Terminator, or I mean not Terminator, but the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. A brand new Ninja Turtles pinball machine just came out, and it is a throwback. It's all the old artwork. It's got a pizza that spins around on the playfield that kicks the ball all around. It looks amazing. Do yourself a favor and check that out. They make Batman 1966 pinball. It's got Adam West Batman on it. It's all these call outs, and there's CRT, not a CRT, but there's a flat screen monitor for the scoreboard nowadays. So Deadpool game has cartoon Deadpool going around kicking butt. It's just amazing. The stuff they're doing with pinball right now is like the peak. We are in the pinnacle of building the machine. The company that is left, there's one big company, and there's like 7 or 8 small side companies that are also making amazing games right now. So we are in what I'd like to say is like the third pinball renaissance right now. The golden age was the 90s. The silver age is like the 60s and mid 70s. And pinball outplayed, everything for jukeboxes, movies, whatever, for 70 years of existence. It started in like 1910 through like 1980. It was the dominant money-making entertainment form in America. Was pinball. Over going to the movies, going to theater, going to see a play, or going to see a band. Pinball made more money than that. By 1980, once Space Invaders came across the seas, it was over, man. Space Invaders and this Pac-Man, all that stuff drove kids away from pinball. The flashing lights that didn't matter to them anymore. It was all about eating the dots and eating the power pellets. So it kind of did kill it for a while, but it didn't fully strangle it to death like it should have. And pinball made another resurgence here, especially in the last 7 years. But since about 2000, it's held on by a thread, and then about 2010, it started to pick steam up again. And in the last 5 years, especially, it's been out of this world. Everybody's opening arcades left and right, pinball arcades left and right, and that was my goal for a while. I had my own little arcade up until December of this past year, but it's a long story. Like everything else I tell is a long story. But it wasn't my ultimate goal, that place. There's another place I've got in mind that I'm trying to work towards right now. So that's really another goal, is to open up another bar situation with a stage and a retro shop attached to it, and all kind of pinball and arcade machines in there to hang out and have a good time. the Ultimate Captain
Well,
Ball.
I'm glad
and
to
I
hear.
might be here in the business with Jay from the game. Me and him have talked a little bit about working together on his new arcade adventure that he's working on, but we haven't finalized it. He bought a couple machines for me to put in it. But we've talked about me maybe coming out there and partnering up or doing something like that. Nothing is in writing.
Well, that's good to hear. You're looking at partnering with him, and I'm glad to hear that it has had a resurgence. I wouldn't have really known that from what I've seen that pinball machines have been making a comeback, but that's great to know. Let me ask you this, since you know so much about it. When it did die out for those years that it died out, right? And you had all these companies that were renting the machines out, right? Where did most of those end up? Did they end up in private collections? Did they end up at movie theaters? Where did all those machines that were once so prevalent everywhere? Where did they end up, Kevin?
I mean, most of them, a lot of them got trashed. You know what I mean? The operators were going out of business left and right and losing their asses in the 80s with both arcade and pinball machines. You know what I mean? The mid 80s arcade crash and video game crash not only affected home consoles, but it also affected arcade sales in general. And by the early 90s, the writing was on the wall for your mall arcade. You know what I mean? Like it was.
Right.
They were not making money. They were not pulling in the same amount of numbers. It was not a feasible business model anymore to do what they were doing. But the feasible business model now is a pay-by-the-hour type situation where you're selling food and beer, and, like a restaurant, and people are also paying to play your games, and you're doing your best to keep your games playable. And it's working for a lot of people. There's a really great place out in Texas called Free Play that is just incredibly. I think he's got like 12 or 13 of them right now, and he's doing really well. And that's the model. But again, this whole crazy nonsense plague situation we're going through right now may kill everybody's hopes again that the arcades were able to come back, because they were coming back. I honestly think that people missed that. I think people miss going out and being amongst other people that have the same likes. You know what I mean? Like everybody goes to a movie, but like you're not in there talking and hanging out and having a good time. But you can at a bar with a bunch of arcade machines and a pinball machine, and you know what I mean, share your other passion like that. So I think it's coming back, and that communal aspect of playing games together is always going to be around. People have been playing games since the pyramids, if not before. There's been some type of gathering and playing games together of people throughout every generation of mankind, and I don't think it'll ever go away. I don't know when virtual reality gaming will take over, but I don't think pinball is going anywhere anytime soon. They just keep making cooler machines, and they're expensive. A brand new machine is only $5,500 and up for a brand new in the box pinball machine, but it'll hold its value better than a Corvette. You know what I mean? Like if you buy one, there's only going to be 3,000 or 4,000 of them made in all, and you've got a good investment. So 10 years later, if you go to sell that thing, you either haven't lost very much money or you gained a couple $1,000 because it's gone up because of supply and demand. So it's just like any other kind of investment. Old cars, old motorcycles, fixing up tractors, whatever it may be that floats your boat. If there's a market for it, there's a collector market for it. Hey, there's Mega Meg, the wife of Megadan, and Megadan 29. Look at him. And there's Captain Alpha. All my little friends. It's so cool. The best thing about YouTube, dude, is meeting people and then hanging out and being like, oh my God, you share the same stupid passion that I do? That's incredible. Nice to meet you. You know what I mean? I really do enjoy meeting people in public and hanging out.
More people we've had on the show. We had Mega Dan interviewed on the show. And next Saturday, we have another captain, Captain Algebra over here you're talking to. We're going to have him on the show next Saturday.
He's good people. Smart dude. Dan and Meg and all, this was I think this is at Too Many Games last year, I guess, or maybe the year before. I'm not sure. It's just cool to meet people like my God at the skills Mega Dan has at old video games. I like playing old games, but I'm not great at them. You know what I mean? I'm not. I can't know Death Run anything but like Jeopardy and like Double Dare. Like I can know Death Run, Double Dare, I think, because you don't die in that game. But it's awesome to watch him play and learn stuff, and watch people's skills with these old games that I had no idea that people were that good. Speed runs, and man, the world is incredible with the talent people have on this planet. Look, there's Scarlet Sprites. Speaking of a talented dude, check out his channel, Neo Geo stuff. Everybody in the chat right now, go check out their channel, NES Addict. Jay, I walked into his house one night about 2 a.m. On my way home from a convention, and he lives in South Carolina, and he let me stop by real quick, and he beat Ghosts and Goblins right when I walked through the door. So I feel like I was his lucky charm to finally beat Ghosts and Goblins for the first time in his life. That's YouTube. That's the power of YouTube. That I can meet new people and stuff. You know what I mean? And hang out with them and share this world of gaming with them. It's awesome.
And Jay, we've had on the show too, NES Addict, and I'm proud that we've had to have so many awesome people like yourself, like Jay, on the show. It's really our pleasure being able to talk to you guys. And you mentioned something earlier about that communal aspect when you're at an arcade. You know, we're in this culture now. Let's even go back before the quarantine. We're in this culture. Everything is shipped to your house. People don't even leave anymore. People hardly see movies anymore. Everything's on demand. You're buying games through the PlayStation Store. I mean, it's only going to be so long that we do that as a culture that we want to go back to meeting up. We want to go back to being more social. And I think maybe, like you said, about the time we were going to have a resurgence of that, then the COVID hit, and then the quarantining hit, right at the time when all this stuff was going to kind of come back.
Yeah, it was really again, this summer was going to be a big summer for a lot of different people. Jay, I keep going back to him, but like he was planning on opening his bar up in like May, and like that ruined his whole idea. You know what I mean? Had he signed a lease with the company, he'd lost it. I myself almost signed a lease with a place in January, right after I closed my place in December, and I was like, thank God I didn't. You know what I mean? Like, something in my brain told me, wait, you might be able to find a better spot. You might be able to get a better deal. Hold out a little bit longer. And thank God I did. You know what I mean? I don't know if that was Jesus talking to me or of my own, just being scared of putting down, $30,000 on a place to get some rent going and get some insurance running for a business again. But, I didn't, and thank God, because I'd be out of my butt right now, and I'd be out of all my cool games because I have to sell them to make ends meet at this point. But I don't, and I haven't yet. So far, knock on wood, my plans have not been thwarted, with the exception of making movies. We were supposed to start shooting movies in April, and that has been pushed to September, if then. We don't even know, So it could affect me later on this year, depending on what's going on. But so far, it hasn't terribly ruined my life, with the exception of not being able to go out and see all my friends. The nostalgic numbnuts that I was just hanging out with tonight are hilarious. RJ and Brian, hysterical dudes. And they apparently are from Georgia, where we've been planning on making videos together. We just haven't had a chance yet. And seriously, after the coronavirus showed up in 3 months ago, we were on the verge of getting ready. Like 2 weeks later, when the quarantine started, we were supposed to get together and make a video together. So that ruined some plans there, you know what I mean? But we're all going to come together even better after this is over, I feel, and even bigger. So the big convention is going to happen where everybody's safe and we're able to do it. It'll be outrageously fun, and you have to be there, kind of thing. Like the first one that pops up is going to blow the lid off it.
Kevin, you're breaking up a little bit. Are you closer to like a window you could get to, or just somewhere your bars might go a little bit higher? It's been great for most of the interview, just a little bit cutting out.
I'm sorry, I'm in the basement, but it's been sitting in the same spot the whole time. Am I there? Am I good?
Brady, how is it sounding for you? Pretty good. I mean, it just sounds like it's cutting out a little bit. Everybody in the chat, can you hear them okay and everything?
Murr, I think that Abside Trilogy thing I was holding there was I was talking about you and I was holding it. The craziest thing about YouTube, if you can still hear me, you guys, the craziest thing about YouTube is that MC Murr and I knew each other since like 4th grade. We went to elementary school together. We went to middle school together. We were really good friends throughout elementary and middle school. And then high school, we kind of stopped talking to each other after high school. You know what I mean? Like, you kind of go different ways in life and things happen. And it was 20 years of not talking to him when he hit me up through YouTube because I made a video about video games, and he was like, "Holy shit, you do the same thing I do. What's up?" And I was like, "Oh my God." And we found out that we were like 30 minutes away from each other on the planet. And we were like, "Dude, I've got my friend back." And we started hanging out again. And that's the best thing YouTube's done for me, is give me back my buddy Andy. So it's awesome to have another giant nerd to hang out with again. That was how much fun we had as middle schoolers, was playing video games and talking about video games and doing stuff together about video games. And now we get to do it as grown-ups, and it's incredible.
And
if you want to call it grown-ups.
It's so important to have that hobby, no matter what it is, whether it's music or gaming. It's always important to detach from the stresses of life and to have that, to have something you can relate to other people on, like games that you're playing, and just get that fun out of your system, because everybody needs to let go of reality once in a while, no matter what age we are. And we're all, to a certain extent, young in our hearts. We don't, within our hearts, we never age. Our bodies might, but deep down, we don't.
No, man, I stopped doing it at like 8. I stopped aging at 8. I'm a big 8-year-old. There I am falling over with a giant Jenga tower that was ridiculous. This is, I think, more footage from SFGE possibly, or maybe Southeast Game Exchange is what's coming on now. What are y'all doing? Just running through a playlist of my channel, or just kind of?
Well, basically, I went. Yeah, I put a lot of conventions in there. I try to put a lot of arcades in there because I know you do that. I even put in you mentioned you don't like emulation, but I even put in you building that 4-player pie
that was
cabinet.
That was for my buddies, the 7th level. And
I even threw in Ghostbusters toys in there. I try to give you a little bit of everything. I try to do that for every channel, just kind of give a sampler, like an appetizer sampler, like if you went to Chili's. Get a little bit of something, everything that they do, is the way I tried to do it.
Well, that's cool. If you really look at my channel, probably a Lost In series. So if you're looking for something to like dive into, and you care about pinball machines that never got made, it's a pretty interesting. I think it's a pretty interesting series to watch. This 13 or 14 episodes now, and it's awesome to see stuff that should have come out. There's one little recall that would have been a 2-player machine, where it was like side by side, kind of in a big V. You would have played your own pinball machine, and then you would have swapped balls around the top, like you would have passed to the other guy. And it's pretty incredible, some of the stuff that's on there that never got put into mass production. So doing deep dive documentary stuff like that has been really fun. And I was inspired to do that kind of stuff by my buddy Ian, the historic nerd, or also, obviously the gaming historian Norm. Norm's good people. But like watching them talk about stuff they know about, and it's like, well, I don't really know about these things, but I can learn about them. So I'd go teach myself things, I deep dive on these topics, videos, and telling the world about them. And the most watched things on my channel are the Lost In. It's just pretty impressive. Been maybe 8 months of it. But that means everything else on my channel is shit compared to it, that nobody watches. So.
What other things do you collect? Are you like a vinyl guy, vinyl records? Do you into toy collecting at all? Action figures from the 80s, 90s?
Yeah, a little bit of everything, man. I love vinyl. I like, I got a giant CD collection, a giant vinyl collection, a lot of cassettes still. Up until this last truck in my Mustang, I had a 2012 Mustang before I got a cassette player in it. So I like my tapes. I like my old school, man. I think VHS looks better, depending on the movie. If the movie came out when VHS was the format, the movie looks better on VHS than it does. You know what I mean? If it's a new movie and it came out and it's Blu-ray, obviously it's going to look better. But unless they've re-upped it, but like I can't watch certain things unless it's in the old format on a CRT. So like I don't want to watch Predator on a really nice cut Blu-ray. I'd rather watch a grainy copy of Predator on VHS on my CRT TV. So I collect VHS. I collect laser discs. Arcade, pinball, any kind of home console gaming, and lots of music. A lot of music here.
When you took all the arcades out of that store, so are they, most of them you're just in your house, in your home collection? Do you have to keep some in like a storage unit, or how are you able to fit all these big cabinets?
Well, I've got at the moment, let me count here as I walk through the garage. I got 2 slot machines. I got an Xbox 360 kiosk. I got a Donkey Kong. I got a Mortal Kombat 2. I got a Road King pinball. I got a Laser Install pinball. I got an Apollo pinball. I've got a Nintendo Red 10. I've got a Bloodstorm 10. That's 10 machines on one side of the room. And then on the other side of the room, I've got a Pac-Man, a Hydra, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 more machines over here. I've got a storage space out under my back porch that has about 8 machines in it at the moment. And I've got a storage actual place, a storage locker that's chock full of machines at the moment too. So they're all over the place. And then in my office where I edit and do all my work, there's another 2 pinball machines right now. So they're all over the place, mainly in the basement of my house.
In the basement, and then some in your garage, you were saying.
Yeah. Did I lose that again?
Does the humidity, does the heat in the garage in the summer of Georgia, are they still all right in there? Does the wood warp? Does the capacitors, I mean, are they hardy enough to handle it?
Yeah, you don't need a climate controlled room for anything but the pinball machine. The arcades are going to stand up and do their thing. They're going to be fine in the garage. A pinball machine, I do have some in the garage right now, and they're okay. It's not like I want to leave them out there for their entire life, but they're all in some various form being worked on. Or if not being worked on, they just got done. Actually, the two of them are finished. The Road Kings and the Apollo are custom paint job things we did. I turned one into a Mad Max, and I did the other one into like a kid's rocket ship theme. And they've been painted recently and just got finished, and they are up for sale, and they are sitting in the garage waiting to be bought. But I didn't want to take them to the storage spot for space reasons. You got to store them. If you're going to store a pinball machine, you kind of want to store it on its back and stand it up. And I just had these painted, taking the legs off. I'm not doing nothing until they're sold. We're not moving them again. So they're staying where they are. But if it was super humid or super, arid, I guess, and dry, it might make a difference. But I mean, it is wood and metal, so it's going to crack and expand. But you really can't, it doesn't make any that big of a deal. Once a month, go through and wipe your machines down and clean them up. You know what I mean? Make sure they're looking okay. You'll be fine.
Are there like 5 machines that you just wouldn't get rid of for whatever reason, whether it's nostalgia, whether you love playing them so much? Are there like 5 you just be like, no, I can't let them go?
I mean, I've got my favorites and the ones that I'll probably have forever. Like I said earlier, my Pac-Man, I miss Pac-Man, the original cabs for those. The Mortal Kombat 2. I have a Nintendo Play Choice 10. This is like the 3rd or 4th one that I've owned at this point. They're easy to come by. So the problem with me, and the problem with being a collector like I am, is I don't have that much sentimental value to this stuff. You know what I mean? It wasn't mine from childhood. If it was, like if any of my home console stuff, the stuff that I do have is I said earlier, there's 100 games I'll probably never get rid of. Maybe 20 of those came from my childhood. They're actually my games from being a kid. The rest of it is stuff that I either had as a kid or wanted hardcore as a kid. And so I've got it all, and it's staying in there, the home console stuff. But for the arcade stuff, I never had any of that as a kid, so I don't have real sentimental value attached to any of it. It's all been like, the best way I can explain it is, like I said, is a car. People buy cars and fix them up and flip them, and some guys have 30 of them. They got 30 cars laying around. They drive 1 or 2 or 3 a month, and they flip it out. And they switch the car for a week, and that's kind of what I do with pinball machines. I like to buy them and play them and get them working again. That's my favorite thing, is to fix it, get it up and running, and then what else is out there? trade it, sell it, whatever. I've done a lot of trading. That happens a lot in the collector community of arcade and pinball machines. People want to play other stuff, and they have other stuff that they're sick of playing. So you got one game when you have a pinball machine. That is the only downside to the pinball machine, is that it is what it is. You know what I mean? You can't modify it. I mean, you can go in there and add extra shit to it if you were smart enough to be able to, do it the right way and make it work. But like, you really can't change the game. You know what I mean? So once you get really good at the game, or if you, like me, you get bored of it real fast. You know what I mean? There's only 5 shots in this thing. I'm kind of bored of them. All right, moving on.
Now I'm curious about the technology side now when we talk about pinball machines being made today, new ones. What are they using? Like, is it easier now because, LED screens? It's a lot of that stuff's all come down in price. What were they using that was different? Because I got to imagine it was a lot different the way they made them in the 90s. Those little screens, they're a lot more limited by what you could do probably with those screen displays. Whereas now, with screens being as cheap as they are, even all the TVs have come down in price now. Has that changed the technology they use? Like, how are they playing the songs in the pinball machines now? Can you tell us any, like, the technical stuff on that?
Yeah, so, like, what is the first one? Let's see if my brain can work on the fly. The first game, I think, with an LCD monitor for the scoreboard, I believe, is a game called Jersey Jack Pinball, which is a company, Jersey Jack Pinball. They made a game, Wizard of Oz. I think Wizard of Oz from about 6 years ago is the first one with an LCD or an LED monitor for the scoreboard. So there's all kind of animated stuff going on. There's, clips from the movie and song shouts from the movie of Wizard of Oz and all that stuff going on. Those machines are beautiful. And that became the industry standard here in the last 4 years, because Stern was still doing dot matrix stuff at that point. In the 90s, alphanumeric from the 80s gave way to dot matrix. Alphanumeric are the ones that just have numbers on them or words, where you could read,
right.
Laser ball might flash across the thing, or shoot again might flash up there before, it goes away. And then dot matrix, they started to get. That was in the 90s. The first game with a dot matrix was 1991 Data East Checkpoint. I owned one of those and restored it. It's got a very small dot matrix on it compared to the regular one you think of when you think pinball machine scoreboard. But it is a dot matrix, and they can do animations on those, but only in dots, you know what I mean? And only in monochrome, one color, action. So it's very limited to what they could do. There are some artists who were incredibly gifted with it. Most of those guys worked for either Data East or Williams. Some of those games have some incredibly beautiful things happening in their dot matrix displays. And nowadays, you can get LED dot matrices that are in color. And there are dudes who have gone back and changed the code over to be a color animation for the background. So you can take a game from the 90s and slap a color D&D in it. And, I think it's about $400 for one of those. But you can slap that in there, and it, breathes whole new life into your gaming experience, because now everything's in color on that picture, and amazing looking and animated better. So that's going on. But the LEDs the screen has become the back glass for machines. The back glasses are still there, but, the main focus is now a TV screen that's below the back glass, or sometimes incorporated into the back glass. But I don't consider myself an expert. I just know what I'm talking about generally. Now, the music, there's Iron Maiden pinball machine that just came out a year ago, 2 years ago. There's a Metallica machine. There's Aerosmith. They all play music from the band. Iron Maiden has 20-something selectable songs on it that you can play, and they're all built around missions. So 666, the number of the beast. That song is on there, and it has its own little missions every time you play it. Or Run to the Hills, you play that mission, and it's a whole different thing. And those games have, 30 and 40 different goals and things to try and get, and they are much more along the lines of video game nowadays, where you have to progress through the levels to build up to the next thing, to get a multi-ball, or to get to your special, or, whatever it is. So it's really intertwined stuff. And with the new LED screens, they can do a lot of video game stuff with the flippers being your buttons to do so, make the guy run to the right or run to the left or jump over something in an animated display that you're playing as well, So there's a lot of cool shit going on. There's also a thing called Orphic Pinball, which is a company that is making 3D tables, basically. The half of the table, like the first from where you stand, your belly, the front of the table, about 3/4 up at the play field, is a 3D screen that is like touch sensitive and can follow the trail of the ball. So when the ball rolls around it, like it can leave like flames behind it or something, something kind of cool animated thing going on the play field itself. And then the top half of the play field is actual ramps or, pop bumpers or whatever might be up there to play the game with. And you can actually change those out. You can order a new different game for it and slap it in there and get a whole new experience. So they're a mixture of video game and pinball machine. Even though there's a real pinball flying around, 90% of it is like a video game taking place on that screen in front of you, which is the play field, which is very cool. There's very cool things happening right now with pinball. And again, like I said, the Ninja Turtle game just came out. I can't wait to get my hands on one of those and see how it plays. Stranger Things just had a game come out. It is super awesome. There's a Demogorgon that pops out of the thing. You got to shoot the ball down his mouth. It's freaking amazing. Look up, go on YouTube when you get done watching this, listen to this, and look up Stern Pinball and see what the new trailers are for machines. Your mind will be blown with how amazing they look.
Have you seen that pinball museum in California? It's some kind of town with a B, I think. They have like 600.
Yeah. There's a couple different pinball museums throughout the country. There's a big one in Las Vegas. That might be the one you're talking about. I don't think it's in California. There's one in Vegas. It's the big boy. And no, I've not been there. I can't believe that it exists, and I haven't been able to get my foot in the door yet. I plan on making a trip to pinball museum in Vegas.
Now, right now, we're looking at a golden axe, and I think, if I remember on the title of the video, it says it was only like 300 or 400 you got it for. What was the reason behind that? Was that one you had to fix? Like, give us an example.
No, that was a working game. That was just a buddy of mine hitting me up on the field there. That was my buddy Christopher Walker's house, and we went over to his place and walked around through his collection for a little while. He's got all kind of stuff. He's also another person that I know that's planning on opening a barcade. I've been talking about it for like 3 years and collecting machines for about 20 years now. In the last 3, he's talked about opening a barcade, and I think he's got like 500 games ready to go when he does do it. So he's insane about collecting, and he's got way more money than I do, and a little bit more time apparently because he's got way more games than I do. Yeah, so that just happened to be a deal. 2 days ago, well, maybe I say 2 days ago. What's today? Today is Saturday. On Wednesday of this week, I was called from I have an ad on Craigslist about, hey, if you need some help getting your pinball machine working or an arcade machine working, give me a call. I can do it. $100 an hour, $100 for the first hour, $50 per hour after that, plus parts is how I charge people. And sometimes the distance too, I have to add a little extra for if I got to drive over an hour. But anyway, some guy called me from that, and he was like, I've got this laser ball pinball machine. I bought a house I had to buy everything in the house when I bought the house. So I got like 2 cars, and I've got a laser ball pinball machine. There's all kind of stuff down in the basement of this guy's house. When I bought it, I got to get rid of. Do you want it? I just want a couple $100 for it. Come get it. And I was like, $200? He's like, yeah, come get it. And I was like, okay. So went over there and, looked at this machine and picked it up, put it in the truck, brought it home. And about 30 minutes after I got it home, I had it up and running and playing, and it totally works just fine. It needed new batteries. It needed a couple fuses. And it had one stuck switch on it. But it is now in the garage. And it's worth maybe $1,200, something like that. $800 to $1,200, depending on who's willing to pay for it. But it'll be that kind of something like that doesn't happen every day, but it's because I have stuff out there that it did. You know what I mean? Because I took the initiative to make an ad and put it online. Somebody called me from it. And that's how you do things in life, man. You put your foot out there and you make shit happen. That's how I got the nickname Captain. Captain makes shit happen.
talk about the fluctuation of, like you said that this Mortal Kombat cabinet is probably worth like 1,200. Let's talk about the fluctuation of that price. Say it was like mint. Let's talk about condition now. Uh, like how much would an arcade cabinet vary in price on the reseller market if it's good condition versus close to mint? Like what are we talking in difference of price here?
I mean, it just depends on the game. You know, a mint condition Tron will run you 5-6 grand. A decent Tron will run you 3 grand. You know what I mean? I've bought Trons for $100 before. It depends on where you get them and who you talk to. You know what I mean? It depends on where you find them. So if you look on eBay right now, you can find people who have gone through and completely 100% restored machines, and they look factory fresh, and they want top dollar for them. But there's also people that have got every other layer of the scale down below that. It's just like baseball cards, anything else. You know, there are going to cost a pretty penny, and then there are the ones that you can find in somebody's basement that are a cream of the crop and don't cost you a pretty penny. Does that make
What
sense?
does a Terminator 2 arcade with the two guns go for these days?
I'm sorry, what now?
What does
The
a Terminator 2 arcade with the guns? What does that go for these days? I'm just curious. That's one of
I mean, maybe 800 to 1,000, 1,200 bucks. Depends on who wants it and how clean it is. And I traded that one. I had $50 in that machine. That's the one I traded to the guy for the 4-man playing cabinet, the Captain America cabinet. Yeah, the Captain America Avengers cabinet that I turned into that retro piecade for my buddy. But I had $50 in that Terminator 2. So see, that's the other side of it too. Like, I'm not looking to try and get rich off people. MC Merck can vouch that I make deals all the time for people, especially if I like you. That's half of it.
Right.
You could call me up as a random customer. Within the first couple of minutes, I know whether or not I'm going to make you a deal based on your attitude or how I respond to you. You know what I mean? So like, I make people deals that I don't know. I definitely have gotten top dollar for things from people that probably could have paid less to me too had they been a little bit cooler about the situation and not tried to like lowball me or come at me with some kind of crazy nonsense off the bat trying to make a deal. You know what I mean? So I'll
tell you one thing. If you ever had a Terminator 2 for like 800 or so, I'm in Florida. I'm coming from Florida to Georgia to see you.
Dude, had I known, you could have had that one. I ended up trading it. Like I said, I traded it. But I come across, I've got an Aerosmith Revolution right now. If you're looking at those 2-player gun games, it's better than the Terminator 2 game. I think you can actually beat it. Terminator 2, that level when you're on the back, you're trying to shoot the guy on the back of the car and keep John Connor alive while he's shooting people out of the back of the truck. That shit's insane and impossible.
Right.
You eat so many quarters doing that. That's a quarter munching arcade machine.
That's just one of those childhood ones that
I guess it don't matter.
I got those memories. That's just one of those ones I got the memories of. How cool that gun was on those for a light gun machine.
Oh yeah. It's a good one.
Yeah, if you ever find one of those, definitely get in touch with me. And I'm making strides to see it.
Next one I see, I'll hit you up.
Thank you for that. And when you're restoring, like, I'm looking at, like, you're getting like the gunk off, like the sticky residue on one of these controller, like the metal parts where the controllers go in. How many hours are we talking that you put into each one of these machines that you do?
It just depends on the game again, how dirty it is, what I'm trying to do to it. I have taken things and stripped them completely apart and gone from the bottom to the top and restored it 100% like factory fresh. I've also done the player model, you know what I mean? From get it running. Don't worry about it. Just make it play.
Right.
I've done both. So it depends on the game. This Play Choice 10 I'm messing with right now. In fact, when y'all were trying to get in touch with me earlier, I was editing my next video. I just taught myself how to powder coat. I bought a powder coating system, and I've got myself a media blaster and an oven. And I took some metal off the Play Choice 10, the coin door. I'm taking the coin door apart. Like, all the metal on it is rusty and crappy and old and needs to get finished and refinished. So I took it all off of there, and that's my next video is watch me media blast and powders coat something for the first time in my life. And
Wow.
'cause normally I'll send that stuff off. I've got people that can powder coat for me, but it's expensive. You know what I mean? It's $200-300 to get, you know, a couple pieces of metal sent off to have a powder coating done to them. So if I can teach myself how to do that, it's $10 for a bag of powder. You know what I mean? Like that's how you do it. You learn how to do these things for yourself, and you make the money yourself doing it. So this Play Choice 10 is going to be super pimp when I get done with it. It's going to have all the metal on it will be black powder coated, with the exception of some of the coin door pieces, which will be red accented to match the cabinet. And then we start the tear down again on it this week. Me and my buddy Chris will be doing a lot of woodwork to it. We'll probably have 20 or 30 hours in the rebuild of this cabinet. But I've already got a good 4 or 5 hours in rebuilding it to make it work. You know, I rebuilt both monitors. I've added a gun to the cabinet. I cleaned up the monitor, the cage, and all the inside. You know, I got the inside looking great. And so now we're going to take everything out of it again and go to town on the body. The body is a dumpster fire of an arcade machine body, but it's worth saving. So
and where did you find?
You know, this will probably end up being mine. It's a dual monitor with the gun. I've got about 20 games for it right now, and I'll probably end up holding on to this one for quite some time. I've had 3 or 4 in my life now, but this one will be the nicest when I get done with it.
And there's companies that sell those I don't know the right word, the sticker template that you use to refinish that.
Yeah,
like
the decals and stuff, you can get those made up. Yeah, the side art and the cover, the control panel overlay is what the control panel sticker is called. Yeah, there's companies that make those up. I've also got some buddies of mine that do graphic art stuff that turn them up for me, so I can get a little bit of a discount on certain things. I've had pinball translights made. I've had custom pinball machine parts made. I've done a little bit of everything in the restoration game so far, and I really enjoyed that. Honestly, that's my favorite part. You asked earlier is fixing things. You know what I mean, and getting it working, and then take it to the next step, and is like, let's trick it out. Let's make it custom.
Right.
So that's my goal is to do that.
Are there things that can't be reproduced that are on some of these arcades or pinballs? Are there parts like you can't get? Like, say, like a specific gun. I would imagine specific gun stuff, you can't get those anymore.
Yeah, there are certain parts you can't find, especially for most of the older shit for pinball machines too. You know, from the 50s and 60s, there are stuff that doesn't get reproduced. But for the most part, there is an equivalent or something that you can make yourself to fit it. You know, it's either a bracket or, you know, it's some little piece of metal that's not. No one's bending that metal that way, so you better go get some metal and bend a new one, type of thing. You know, there's not a whole lot that they're not making. But there are certain situations you'll run into something like that where, you know, like Tron, the arcade game Tron, the controllers for that is a big glow in the dark stick. You know, it's a big blue like aircraft controller looking joystick, and all the original ones are long gone. You know, there were companies that were mass producing, you know, remakes of them, but then that guy went out of business too. So finding one of those right now is pretty tough. But there are guys with 3D printers, you know, that's the next wave of all this. Is we are in that part of the future now where you can 3D print something you're going to need, and within probably the next 10 years, you'll have stuff at home that is serviceable quality enough to really do really nice shit with your machines, or at least you'll know somebody that you can go to and have a piece printed up. You know what I mean? Like, hey man, I need this part. Here's the thing. They download it, they print it up, they send it to you in the mail. Like, there's going to be companies, there already are companies like that that'll 3D print stuff for you. So, you know what I mean? Like, that's the future of where we're at. Right. Nothing will be obsolete eventually. I mean, or at least unobtainium. Not obsolete, but unobtainium. There are a couple things that are unobtainium. I'm actually dealing with right now with an Avengers pinball machine that I have, a 2012 Stern home model pinball machine. Stern, being the big dog company, they make a couple different models every other year called the home model pin. There's no coin door on it. It's a smaller body. The playfield is the same, but the toys are not as nice on it. There's a real full-size Avengers pinball machine as well. And they made this home model in 2012, and there's a board that goes on it called a node board. and they don't make that part apparently anymore. Which I got sent a part that they said was here's your part, and I'm like, that's not the same thing, you know. I'm looking at the original in my hand, and I took pictures and sent it back, and they're like, oh yeah, that one. Yeah, we stopped making that revision. So apparently, I have a game here that I might not ever be able to fix, which pisses me off because I paid $900 for it. So
Right.
that, a $900 paperweight sitting in the back of the corner right now.
What do you do when like the whole side of that play choice is kind of peeling? What do you call it? The Tolex on it or whatever. How do you remedy that? Just repaint it?
Bondo. Yeah, man, you got to do some woodworking on it. You know, get some Bondo out, fill it in, and go out there and get. They make melamine, which is the plastic that goes in the side of certain arcade cabinets had melamine, and Nintendo cabinets were notorious for having melamine. So that's what's ripping off the side of this play choice that I'm working on right now. Is my melamine is cracking in certain spots. So we're probably going to go ahead and just peel. I'm going to probably peel the whole side piece of that off, and then we'll take wood putty filler, Bondo, and I will get everything back to being the right size and shape and cut, and then cut my grooves for my T-molding back in the corner and get that ready. And then we'll go out and get some brand new melamine in giant sheets. I think it comes in like 50-foot sheets. And you stick that on there, you cut it in half, you make it the size you need, you cut it, you fit it to it, and you know what I mean? It's a process. And like I said, I'll probably have 25, 30 hours in it by the time I get done. And I think I spent $200 for the actual cabinet that was dead when I got it, completely dead, and looked like it had been in a barn for the last 30 years. And I've spent probably $150 or so in parts and things, getting it back up and running again. The new gun I put on it was like a $50 pickup with a control panel and a couple other things. And then I spent $35 on the control panel overlay, and I ordered $60 or $70 worth of side art for it. So I do got the 2 stickers to go on the side when I'm done rebuilding the melamine. But I'll probably end up in it somewhere around $300 or $400 in all. And, you know, it's worth $2,000. So that's the kind that's worth redoing. You know what I mean? When it costs me $400 to make it worth $2,000 again.
What do you think the production run numbers on those play choices were? I mean, how many do you think they made in general?
Thousands. So I was not scared to make things, put them out. They also, most play choice 10 dual monitors were old punch out cabinets. They were making punch out for a while, and then they started making this play choice thing, and they just stopped making punch out, swapped all the cabinets over, and started doing that. And so God knows how many thousand, 7,000 or 8,000 of them probably, 10, 20. I'm not sure. You know, there might have been 10,000 in each country. Hell, I don't know. I don't know that much about the history of those kind of things, like the production numbers, unless we're talking pinball. And I only know that because I go on this website called Pinside, which is the end-all, be-all of pinball knowledge. And everybody on there will tell you exactly what, you know, they will give you their opinions on what they think that pinball knowledge is. So take their opinions with a grain of salt, but you can find out anything you want to know about any pinball machine ever made there, you know?
Right.
Pinside.
How about like
Pinside.
How about like ones they made, you know, like this is probably a totally different thing. I'm talking about like the Super Nintendo in-store play kiosk.
Yeah.
How many of those do you think
Super Nintendo?
Okay. Is that another 1,000?
A couple thousand. I would think more in the thousands again, man. I don't know. It's just like Switch kiosks. How many Switch kiosks do you think they made? There's one in every fucking Walmart. So how many of the, you know what I mean? How many Walmarts are there? How many Toys R Us's were around when they were being made? Look at those numbers, and you'll probably get a good idea of what was going on and what part of the country they were in. And everything on the East Coast was Nintendo heavy. Everything on the West Coast was Nintendo heavy. The middle of the country, not so much, other than Texas, as far as I know. You know, I don't really know the actual figures of that kind of stuff. But if there was one in my Walmart and you had one in your Walmart where you grew up and somebody else had one in their Walmart or whatever, Kmart, whatever it was, there's thousands of them out there, bro.
Was there ever a time
finding them and people that saved them? You know what I mean? The people that didn't throw them out, the operators that didn't go out of business and lose their warehouse and just burn it all, or you know what I mean? Whatever may have happened with it, because there are quite a few stories like that where you'll find, there are things on the internet right now. Go on YouTube and you can find abandoned arcade warehouse, something like that, where these guys go urban exploring and they open up a door in a warehouse and it's 75 old arcade machines falling apart in some warehouse that no one gave a fuck about for 100 years. So, it's pinball machines from the 1960s on, and you're like, holy crap, this was, there's $2 million worth of games in here that someone let go to hell. So I see those a lot. Those kind of videos make me sad, but I definitely watch them every time I see one pop up.
Was there ever a restoration? Was there ever a restoration?
There was one in Europe that was like a 3-story building that was falling apart, and machines were falling from the 3rd-story building down to the basement type of shit. Like, there was a pile of busted machines through the floors of the building these guys were crawling around in. And it was like, who had the money, A, to store that kind of stuff, and B, not keep it up? Like, I don't understand that.
Was there ever a restoration? Was there ever one that you just had to walk away from for whatever reason? You just couldn't figure out why it wouldn't start, or was there ever an experience like that where you just had to walk away from a restoration of an arcade or a pinball?
I had a moment with a pinball machine recently that I couldn't get to stay on longer than 3 minutes or so. Like, it would boot up, it would play, you could shoot the ball around, you could do everything, and then about 3 minutes in, it would kill itself. And then about 30 seconds, you wait, and you could turn it back on, and it would do it again for another 3 minutes or so. I never could figure out what that was. I sold it to a guy for exactly what I paid for it, which was about $800, I think. This was a couple months ago. And it was a game called Tag Team Wrestling. And I totally wanted to play it because I'm a huge pro wrestling fan, and I never really could get it to play. So anyway, he bought it, and it turns out that it was some type of IC chip on the motherboard that, that is where my knowledge ends. I don't know chips. I can replace one if it's replaceable, and I know which one is burned out, like it's visible, but I don't have the really skills with the logic probe yet. I'm teaching myself these things so I can track these problems down better. But it was some kind of chip that was on the board that, even though I had sent the board off and had the board repaired and the guy told me 100% it worked, that it still wasn't working right, you know what I mean? And he took a chip and fixed the chip in it and got it running. So it wasn't a complete nightmare for somebody else, but it was for me. Of like 3 months of digging around through this machine and trying to get it to stay on was driving me insane because I couldn't find the problems. So that does happen.
Right.
And again, I'm not a professional. I do it, but I would not consider myself an expert. I haven't been doing it for 10 years yet. 10 years, 10,000 hours or whatever it is. Even then, 20,000 hours, whatever the number is, you may not be an expert even then. So,
what technology
I've
did
also
these?
had issues with slot machines too. I've bought 3 slot machines now that the first one I definitely couldn't get up and running. It was a nightmare of stuff going on inside there, and I was like, oh my god, there was all kind of parts missing, and like I didn't have a manual. I couldn't find a manual online. Slot machines is a whole nother secret world of like people that don't want you to know how to fix shit. It's like Tesla cars, Tesla doesn't want you to repair them. They don't want you to like get extra parts. They don't want mechanics working on them. They only want their people doing things. Slot machines are the same way. I guess because of the gambling aspect of it, it's a very tight-knit secret society of people who know how to fix them, and they don't share a lot of shit on the internet about it. I did so much research trying to fix that first one for about 6 months. Like every other night I was digging on the internet trying to find something else, oh, maybe this will lead to it, maybe that'll lead to it. Nope, couldn't find anything about it. Finally had to sell it to a guy that knew what he was doing, and he fixed it. So anyway, other than that, I haven't really come across that yet too much. Those 2 instances notwithstanding.
One of the things I'm curious to ask, and this is jumping really, really pretty recent. There's this Jurassic Park, like an arcade where you're sitting in the car and you're it's probably from 4 or 5 years ago, and you got a gun, you're in you sit down in it in the arcade machine, and then there's a Batman arcade where you sit down. I'm sure you've seen it. Maybe 3 or 4 years ago, you can fly and drive every Batmobile and every bat wing, whatever you call it.
Yeah.
From what I've read about these, what makes me so curious about these is I wish they would port some of these because I think they would really be cool on a home console. But from what I've been told, you can't rip the ROMs from those. Like they're in like a PC tower that's like got some kind of code, and like you can't physically. There's something. Do you know anything about the technology that they're using these days in these current machines? Like and the ones I'm mentioning, supposedly it's like an actual PC tower in there that's running these, and you can't even rip the ROMs if you wanted to.
I wouldn't put it past them. You know, same thing with like Sega Saturn. It took them like 20 years to figure out how to like rip the games off the Sega Saturn. So some of these companies are hardcore about their technology and their IPs and keeping them secret, keeping them safe, like the Ring from Lord of the Rings. But I really don't know too much about it. I generally don't F around with anything too modern other than pinball machines. Arcade machines are kind of a byproduct of the pinball habit. Like I end up having to buy a couple arcade machines because I'll just get a deal on them in places that when I'm looking for pinball machines. You know what I mean? Like I'll come across an ad that has a pinball machine, and the next thing I know, there's 2 or 3 arcade machines over there when I go there to buy the pinball machine, and I can't leave those there, so I buy them all together. You know what I mean? Like shit like that happens. I'm not generally looking.
Right.
And I don't really mess with anything too terribly modern. The most modern arcade machine I have right now is a Daytona USA 2 sit down, driving racing game, Sega. And I want to say it's late 90s. And it's got some kind of crazy double, triple board stack of nonsense going on inside of its PC brain too that is right now eluding me as to how to fix it. So I prefer the old stuff with 1 or 2 boards that have been around for 40 years, and enough people have talked about them on the internet that I can figure out how to fix it. You know what I'm saying? The modern stuff. I'm by no means an electrician or an electronic whiz. I got other people that when I have questions like that, super technical questions, I know enough people in this hobby that I can call up a few friends and phone a friend and find an answer. So,
right.
That's where I'm at with the Daytona. I'm about to hit up Scarlet Sprites and make him help me out with this Sega, figure out what's going on with it. He's a Neo Geo guy and a Sega guy. He would know the technical aspects that you're asking these questions. So y'all should interview him.
Scarlet for sure. Right, we'll do. We'll definitely be in touch with him. Another question I wonder what your opinion is on this. There seems to be, like, take the last 20 years, okay? There seems to be, and again, this is back to light gun games. I've always loved those games, and I know that part of it, there was a technology that it only worked on CRTs with the aiming of the light guns. But why do you think that type of game on home console didn't really seem to get ported much? I'm talking about like having a gun as a controller. There was some for the, somebody could argue, yeah, there was some for the Wii, but let's think about it now. There wasn't a lot of, like, on PS3 or PS4 or Xbox 360 or Xbox One, there weren't a ton of, like, light gun games where you could get a gun attachment and you could shoot. Maybe there was a handful. I always wondered why that wasn't seemed to be something that they think would sell good, because I would be all over that.
I mean, I honestly don't know, and it probably has something to do with light gun technology or whatever the modern TVs are doing, and the reason the ability to capture the input of the controller anymore. It was on the old stuff. The reason it works with a CRT is because it's a photosynthetic, like, picture camera light flash emitter diode type of thing, and when you pull the trigger on the gun, it flashes a frame on the screen that if the monitor senses the little white square that flashes up for a butt second, that it can connect, and like they talk to each other for a second, and it knows you made the hit. So when you shoot the ducks on Duck Hunt, you'll see like a white square flash around them. Right. If you ever noticed that when you're shooting duck hunt. But like, yeah, it'll be like a white square will flash up real quick around them, and that's the reticle trying to find the gun. So if they match up when you pull the trigger and they're on the right length, they'll hit each other, and the gun, the duck gets shot. That works because it's a photosynthetic tube, and it can scroll and whatever it's doing at a certain speed of how it works. It can talk to this light gun sensor. The modern stuff apparently can't, and there might be mods that guys have been making to work with LCD TVs for the old stuff, but the modern stuff, again, you're asking the wrong guy. So I would imagine it's more of a challenge to make, and it's probably not the best sellers on the planet. Even the old gun games like the Super Scope and all that shit, the Genesis Miniser and all those things for games back in the day didn't work very good. You know, they're kind of gimmicky. So I don't know. I like gun games in the arcade. I've always had a fun time playing, you know, anything with a gun attached to it in the arcade is generally a good time. So I don't know why the crossover hasn't happened as much with home consoles. It's a good question for somebody smart.
Looking into the next 5 years, and as far as stuff you're collecting, stuff you want to pick up, the kind of videos you want to make, maybe videos you haven't made yet. What can we look to from the future from you as far as what you buy, videos you make? Give us a little insight into that.
Pretty much stuff. You know, I'm been on a pinball kick for 3 years, and I don't see that dissipating anytime soon. So probably, you know, hunting pinball machines down. Hopefully by then owning my own place, my own pinball arcade, barcade situation, and do something like that. You know, that'd be kind of cool in the next 5 years. If not, I don't know. I have plans on restoring a car. I'd like to buy an old Corvette and fix it up on my show.
Oh, what year were you thinking?
You know, I something from the 70s. I like the C body stuff, so like a 78. That's when I was born. So something like that, Stingray. You know, drop a big old engine in it and have a lot of fun. But I haven't messed with any cars. I rebuilt a Mustang when I was in high school and did a couple things with my dad and some other people here and there with a Trans Am and a couple other cars. But it's been a while, so I kind of miss doing that. So I wouldn't mind sharing that kind of stuff on my channel too, stuff I know how to do. So
convertible?
That's what my channel's all about, sharing what I know how to do. Just T-tops.
T-top?
Yeah.
And when you edit videos and, you know, what would you say your output is? I mean, how many do you put out like a month?
2 or 3 a week. So
2 or 3 a week? Steady?
Yeah.
Steady 2 or 3 a week?
Generally 2, at least 2, if not 3 a week, and some of them are streamed, you know what I mean? So I might stream 3 or 4 times every other night in a row for a couple of days, so it just depends, you know what I mean? In the last 2 weeks, I haven't done too much of anything other than be busy and work, so there hasn't been a whole lot going up other than my pinball episodes and stuff like that on my channel. Pinball, like top 7 episodes, you know, the stuff that I've already got in the can, edited, the top 7 lists, and my like what I'm working on right now, which is just more arcade update stuff, which is kind of shoot that as it comes and edit it real quick. So there's not a whole lot of editing going on in it.
And the other question I have for you is, where do you see, you know, because we were talking about barcades, they would have made a resurgence, but then the quarantine hit. Where do you see gaming going? You mentioned virtual reality shortly for a little bit. Where do you see, like, in 10 years, you know, what's the future of gaming for you? I mean, it could be about anything. I'm talking arcades, I'm talking consoles. What do you see for the future of the scene?
You know, I hope they don't go all digital. I'm a huge fan of, you know, physical media, so I like having my hands on a game, and if I don't like the game I just bought, that I could take that game and sell it. I don't, you know, if I download a game, I've generally already played it and I like it, and I know that I like it, so I'm going to download it. It's very rare that something brand new comes out that I download, because if I don't like it, I'm going to sell it. That's where I'm at. You know what I mean? It just happened with Last of Us 2. I loved every minute of Last of Us 2. I could give a shit about internet comments and nonsensical ravings of lunatic minds that goes on with Metacritic and their review systems. The game was enthralling and gross and deeping and just amazing and grossing and awesome, and I had a great time with it, but I'm done with it, so it just got sold for $9. So it cost me like $11 to play Last of Us 2. You know what I mean? That's how.
Right.
I don't need it anymore. I beat it, and if I find it in 3 years down the line when it's $5, I'll pick it up again. That's kind of how I am with modern games, especially.
Right.
Because I have the ability to do that with Amazon or eBay. I can, you know, immediately flip the game right after getting through with it, and, you know, get your money back. how I've been playing for the last like 5 or 6 years. Is go to GameStop, buy something new, get done with it, sell it immediately. And then if I find it later on at Goodwill for $2, yay! You know what I mean? It's now in the collection again. And there's been very, very few games that I bought and I was like, I have to have this. I'll never let it go. Very,
Right.
very few.
Who has better exclusives in your opinion? Microsoft
PS4.
or Sony? PS4.
PS4 is where it's at, dude. PS4 is the second coming of the PS2. It is the awesomest console out right now. The Switch is nice and fun. I've owned 3 of them. Fuck them. I buy them and sell them. I don't need one of those. I love my Wii U. I'm good with it. All the best games from the Switch basically were Wii U games, so I'm cool with that. And I played the 3 big bangers on the Switch. They were all fun. They weren't nothing to keep my machine for. I like my Xbox 360 a whole lot. That got me back into modern gaming. That was the first like modern console I bought since the PS2. I didn't go through the PS3 or the Xbox. He was the PS2 guy, and I didn't play a whole lot of that because I was playing music. So gaming wasn't that big in my world at that point. And I got back into it in the later years of the Xbox 360 when somebody was like, "You have to play BioShock." And I was like, "What's BioShock?" And they were like, "You just have to go get an Xbox 360 and play BioShock." And I don't want to tell you what BioShock is until you play BioShock. And I'm like, okay. So I went and bought it, and I haven't stopped playing modern shit since. And that game was amazing as well. Got me right back into buying games all the time.
And what is coming next for you as far as soundtracking goes for movies?
I got another movie. Like I said, we're supposed to start shooting in April. There's a thing coming in October that right now I think it's called Lost Souls, but it might have a different name by the time it comes out. Psychological thriller, not a horror movie per se, but a psychological thriller. The first 2 feature-length films I did were both horror films. The first and second sequel there of Along Came the Devil. And so they were fun to do. I've done some commercial stuff around here. I've done some stuff for Georgia Public Television, TV shows, theme songs. Like we do they show the kids here on high school play football on Friday nights here on GPTV in Atlanta, Georgia. And we wrote the theme song for that little show that comes on. It's kind of fun. And a couple commercials and different stuff like that. So, but there's all kind of stuff coming for that. There's there's a couple things that I'm sworn to secrecy on. I'm not allowed to say out loud. There's a really big one that hopefully I'll be working on. I don't know how much music I'll be doing on it, but I will definitely be working on the movie. But I'm not going to drop any more hints about that because I had to sign a non-disclosure about it. So
Understandable.
And it's a major Hollywood release. And when it does come out, don't think I won't be jumping up and down, tell people that I had something to do with it.
Great.
Well, I get to work on things I love.
Congrats.
Well, thank you. Again, if you can find something in this world that you like to do and you can get paid to do it, go do it. And that's all I've ever done in this world is tried to find things that fit my agenda on the planet, which was making music or making money doing it. So
right.
We're trying to make money doing it.
And speaking of advice, and then I'm going to throw it to Brady to see if we've had any chat questions from our viewers. But the last question I want to ask you, this could be at any point in your life. This could be coming from anybody. What's some of the best advice you've ever heard? Could be about anything in life, not just collecting. Just some words of wisdom to pass along to anybody that might be listening right now.
Probably shit or get off the pot. It's like my favorite quote about things. You know what I mean? Just do it. Shut up about it and do it. Stop talking. Less talking, more doing. I find that, the YouTube thing, like I said, is fun to do and it's something I really enjoy doing, but like, it's not the end all be all of who I am. It's something that's very, very, very minimal in the background of my world. And it's fun to do, but like, if I really cared about doing it, then that's all you would see. I wouldn't be off YouTube. I'd be streaming nonstop every day for 6 hours a day of streaming and then 3 new episodes of whatever per week. You know what I mean? I'd really put a real schedule behind it and go crazy with it and do it. And, there's a lot to be said for the people who do that kind of shit, that like quit their day job and start a YouTube channel. It's pretty impressive if they can make it work. I don't ever want to do that. Like I like having the option to do whatever I want, whenever I want, which is why I'm not married and I don't have kids. I do what I want. And It's nice to be able to be like, oh, I want to go to Florida this week. Okay, I'm going to Florida, or I might fly out to California next weekend. You know what I mean? Like, it's whatever I feel like doing on this planet. So if you can find a way to make money doing what you love and do what you want and not infringe on other people, then go do it and make it happen. I mean, make life happen. You want.
Inspirational, awesome advice. Glad to hear that. Now, it's that time, Kevin. I'm going to throw it over to Brady. We're going to see if we've had any questions from the chat from our viewers. So, Brady, you want to take it over, brother?
Yeah, I got 3 questions for you from the live chat here. If that's all right.
All right.
All right. 80s Rule. He wants to know what you think of the FPGA Mr. Arcade cores.
I'm sorry, the FPGA what now?
Mr. Arcade cores. I don't know if I'm saying that right.
So I keep losing you. Something about arcade core?
Yeah, the Mr. Arcade cores.
I've never used them, never seen them. Not sure what they are.
Yeah, that kind of struck me as odd too. Zombie JLT1, we all know and love him. He wanted to know what's the dream cabinet that you wish that you would own.
I would love to have a Dreamcast kiosk. Yeah, that's kind of on the bucket list. I'd like a GameCube one as well. The GameCube is probably my favorite Nintendo console of all time. Super Nintendo and GameCube are really close to each other, but the Dreamcast kiosk would be dope.
Nice.
It's they made like 3 or 4 different models of those, and there's the middle size one. There's the one that I'd want. Same thing with the GameCube. It's got like this bubble that the GameCube sits in, and it looks like something out of the future, or like a UFO type thing from the 50s. It's awesome.
Yeah, those kiosks are awesome. And Ms. Ashley, she wanted to know what's the most you've ever paid for an arcade cabinet.
Well, pinball machine I paid a lot more for. Arcade machines, generally I haven't paid more than like $500 or $600. I think $600 might be the most I've ever spent on an arcade machine itself. But generally it was in like a pile of other things, you know what I mean? So it might have been like 4 arcade machines I got that averaged out to being $600 a piece, you know what I mean? That kind of thing.
That's awesome.
Or something around there. Or 2 of them averaged $600 and they were worth 12 a piece. Kind of but the pinball machines I bought a brand new in the box, 2 of them. A Ghostbusters was $5,500 cash. And then I bought a WWE WrestleMania limited edition signed by Hulk Hogan arcade pinball machine, and I loved that game. But it got boring real quick. I love the way it looked. I love the sound. Same thing with Ghostbusters. I love the way they looked and the way they sounded. But the gameplay was just kind of meh, and I got real bored real quick with them and sold them both. But the Hogan one was like $7,000, brand new.
Nice.
And then I was able to sell both of them, thankfully, for exactly what I paid for them.
There you go.
I did not lose any money, and I was able to play each one for about 6 months before I sold it off and didn't lose anything, thank God. You know what I mean? So they hold their value. That's the thing about a pinball machine is, unlike a car, there's a limited number of them, and they hold their value.
Heck yeah, that's awesome. I think that's it, Ryan.
All right.
Is that it?
Kevin? Yeah, thank you so much, Kevin. This has been awesome. You're an incredible resource of information, Kevin. You know that?
I am a wealth of non-stop talking. I know that much. I'm pretty good at doing that.
No, but a wealth of knowledge too on not only fixing arcades, pinballs. It's amazing.
Well, thanks. You can do it yourself. Just watch YouTube videos and learn. It's pretty. Again, once you figure out one power supply, you kind of figure out another power supply. You know what I mean? Like they kind of, once you figure out one component, you can kind of move on to the next stuff, and they all kind of work the same. Different companies do different stuff, so anybody can learn it. It's nothing. I'm nothing special. All I did was do. You know what I mean? I've done nothing special other than do it, which most people don't do the things they want to do in life. So that's, maybe there's something to be said for that. You know, I do what I want on this planet.
The interview was special tonight. Your channel is special, and we're happy we had you.
Well, thank y'all so much for having me. Y'all have an awesome night, and good luck with the channel. I will spread the word and tell folks. I'll let Scarlet Sprite know y'all going to get in touch with him. You want to know technical stuff about arcade machines, talk to that man.
Oh, that would be great. That would be great. And to let you know how it'll work, in the next 2 to 3 days, I'll have this interview uploaded and edited. And in the description, it's going to have a link to your YouTube channel. I'm going to try to get your movie soundtracks in there. If I have any questions about that, about getting the links for that, I might hit you up. But so that'll be in the next 2 to 3 days uploaded.
Cool, man. Well, I appreciate it, you guys, and y'all have a rad night.
Thanks, man.
Definitely,
You too.
Kevin. Thank you. Take care.